America is under attack as an influx of fentanyl continues to plague our nation and our children. As we've been telling you, the problem is so bad that it has even contributed to a lower life expectancy rate for the United States citizens. It's incredible the numbers that are coming in. And tonight, the Wall Street Journal is shedding a light on just why we cannot get a handle on fentanyl. The Journal reporting that it all has to do with international relations between the United States and China. Back in 2018, when relations were a bit better, China restricted two of the most common ingredients for the drug. But since then, the U.S. has adopted a tougher stance on China, and the fentanyl crisis has unfortunately exploded. And Nancy Pelosi's August trip to Taiwan, you may remember, has not helped matters. It angered China so much that all talks about the deadly drug have stopped. Nicholas Burns, the U.S. ambassador to China, is telling the Wall Street Journal that he is pressing senior Chinese officials to re-engage talks. But China maintains that the U.S. can address this crisis on our own by curbing demand. Joining us now is the former Director of Special Operations for the Drug Enforcement Agency, Derek Maltz. Good to have you with us tonight, sir.
Good evening, Bianca. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Let's first get your reaction to what we're hearing about Pelosi's trip to Taiwan, making things worse for America's fentanyl crisis. Is there any way the U.S. can salvage what may be left of this dialogue here, Derek?
Well, the U.S. leadership's going to have to be way more aggressive. You got to understand the Chinese attack on America with synthetic drugs has been going on for many years. When I was the head of the Special Operations Division back in 2008, 2009, we saw synthetic cannabinoids and cathinones, K2, bath salts, spice, coming into America in mail packages from Chinese labs, right? Then in 2012, they started pushing pure fentanyl into America through the dark web and the internet services. But over time, because pressure was put on China, we started seeing movement of the precursors, mass amounts of precursors into Mexico. And then the cartels took over the production of the fentanyl. But Bianca, one thing I want to stress, really important, the Mexican cartels have had a 30-year plus relationship with chemical brokers in China for methamphetamine production. So now this is just a new product in the product line. And that's why it's ongoing, it's continuing. And now with the Chinese money laundering helping the cartels, it's like really the perfect storm as far as destruction of American families.
Yeah, it was sort of a baked-in system there with the meth, as you kind of point out so wisely there. Want to ask you about, when it comes through Mexico, we know China's helping the cartels, but there are some scary statistics that Americans may not know. The DEA this week announcing this year it seized enough fentanyl to kill every single American. I mean, you hear that compared to when you hear China saying we need to curb demand. It doesn't even seem like there's any demand because a lot of times this is laced with other drugs. The demand really isn't fentanyl at all, is it, Derek?
Right. Americans are being deceived to death. Certainly we have an opioid demand issue, and that's because the corporate cartels dumped 100 billion pills in 9 years, and a lot of Americans got addicted. But Bianca, what's different now is we have such a younger generation using these drugs. There's a lot of depression. There's a lot of anxiety. These young kids are feeling the pain. So they think going to pills is going to help them. Unfortunately, the pills are fake. They're not real Xanax. They're not real Percocet. They're not real oxycodone. So the kids are being deceived. And, there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of blame to go around. But remember, the DEA also said that 6 out of the 10 pills that they analyze have a potentially lethal dose of fentanyl. So the kids are playing beyond Russian roulette because the odds of dying are very high.
Scary stuff, and certainly a crisis affecting so many people in our country. Derek Maltz, great to have you in, sir. Thank you so much for being with us on the broadcast this evening.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas. Thanks for having me.
Merry Christmas to you, sir.